Hello guys, welcome back. My name is Nathan and today I'm going to be discussing rising and falling draft stock for the 2020 NHL draft after the U20 World Juniors. Now the 2020 World Juniors are officially complete. Canada has won the gold medal and the tournament is over. But for a lot of the 2020 NHL draft prospects, whether it be in the good or the bad, have made their impact in this tournament. But which prospects made the most impact? Which prospects have risen and fallen because of their World Juniors performance? Watch till the end for all my picks and answers, and of course subscribe if you're new. Now before I get into my picks for the rising and the falling players, I first want to put a disclaimer out there that yes, the World Juniors are not the be-all end-all for these prospects and never should be. These are 7 games at most compared to a full season's long of play with a lot more ice time most likely and a lot bigger opportunity. But in saying that, Alexis Lafreniere is really good at hockey. Just saying. And in saying that, that will lead us to our first player who has risen in this tournament, that being Alexis Lafreniere of Team Canada. Now, Alexis Lafreniere, when it comes to draft spots, is not going to raise at all. He was the projected first overall pick, and once again, will be the projected first overall pick. But there was some debate here and there between Quinton, Byfield, and him, especially when it comes to the season performance. And there was a little bit of debate on who should go first overall. Well, it's safe to say that right now, it doesn't even matter what anybody thinks. Alexis Lafreniere is the best prospect in the draft, and he's proven that in his season play. He's proven that in this year's World Juniors. He's just on a different level compared to the other 2020 prospects, and he's proving that fact right again so far this year. And in this year's World Juniors, Alexis Lafreniere was named the tournament MVP at 18 years old, had 10 points in just 5 games. Of course, with Team Canada, they ended up playing 7. Lafreniere had the injury and only played 5. But in those games, again, had 4 goals, 6 assists for 10 points. Right now, to me, Lafreniere is the #1 guy, and I never really had too much of a differing opinion on that. I still love Quinton Byfield, and I still love his skills. But right now, Alexis Lafreniere is, again, proving himself as the top dog in the 2020 draft, and right now, I don't see that changing anytime soon. Now we're going to keep on the same team and move on to another Canadian player, this time in the fallen category. And for my first faller with the 2020 World Juniors, I'm going to go with his teammate Quinton Byfield. Now I also want to preface this that I don't think he's going to drop any spots like Lafreniere rising any spots. I still think Quinton Byfield is the second best prospect in the draft. But Quinton Byfield, I think in this World Juniors, at least when it came to the national publicity, went from a guy that could maybe contend for the first overall pick in an outer space universe to a guy that I don't think really has a chance right now. Unfortunately, I think that is the case. I think there still should be a discussion up there because Quinton Byfield is still fantastic at a very young age, but the guy did not have the greatest World Juniors. He was kind of just there and quite frankly kind of looked like a 17-year-old, like Alexis Lafreniere in last year's tournament. Now that also is a product of his age because Quinton Byfield is turning 18 in August, half a year away. Again, I think it is the same situation as Lafreniere in last year's draft where the age does affect quite a bit and the ice time was not there either for him. I think at points there was a few games in there where he was pretty solid, but for the most part he was forgettable. But he's still having an incredible OHL season for how young he is. He's a guy that still should go second overall, and there should be no question about it. Now getting on to the positive side of things. Man, it took freaking forever, right? Either way, for my second player who has risen in these year's World Juniors, I'm going to go with Swedish forward Lucas Raymond. Now, Lucas Raymond to me had a very underrated tournament for Sweden. It took a little bit of time for him to really get going, but by the end of the tournament, he was one of Sweden's best players and was on the ice for the power play, was getting all the ice time, and with the play that he had, it was 100% deserved. Now in 7 games with Team Sweden, he was able to collect 2 goals, 2 assists for 4 points. And very solid stats for the still 17-year-old. And Lucas Raymond is a guy that again is one of the youngest and is kind of more on line of the Quinton Byfield age side of things than a guy like Alexis Lafreniere. And those stats are very good. And I think he played very good with Sweden. And right now there was some doubt of him maybe even being like a top 4, top 5 prospect. But right now he is solo in that number 3, number 4 range, and I don't see him going after that. Now going on to the third positive player who has risen in this year's World Juniors, I'm going to go with German stud Tim Stützle. Now, Tim Stützle, if you're in the prospect community, is looked at as pretty much a consensus top 6, top 7 pick. But there was some concerning people that out there maybe didn't see him as like a top 10 or just around that area, right? Around that number 10 area. Right now, Tim Stützle is 110% a top prospect in this draft. And especially after this year's World Juniors, after dominating so far in the DEL, there should be no question about that. Now, the 17-year-old German forward who turns 18 in 10 days had himself a great tourney with Team Germany. In 5 games, was able to get 5 assists for 5 points. And even though he didn't get a goal and didn't get amazing point totals, I still felt he was one of the rocks and anchors on that Team Germany team. Obviously, I'm Maurice Seider there as the main captain, but Tim Stützle was depended on to be the main guy on that offense, and quite frankly, he was leading that team even as a 17-year-old. But he was great and good enough and solidifying himself as a top 10 pick, which is the very least of where he should go. If you get freaking Tim Stützle at number 10, you got yourself a steal. Now, going to my second player who is falling after this year's World Juniors, I'm going to go with another Canadian forward, that being Dawson Mercer. Now, Dawson Mercer, I think was a potential top 15 pick for some people and in some people's top 15, but now I see him as more of a first rounder, more in the 20 to 25 range. Now, that isn't always completely his fault, especially in this year's tournament. He didn't get that much ice time, but still recorded 0 points in 7 games. And for Team Canada, a team that got a lot of goals throughout this tournament, that's not the greatest look. But for Mercer, a guy who's still been great in the QMJHL, I personally wouldn't worry too much. Yes, he is 18 years old, and he is more of an older prospect in this draft, but still, he still has a ton of talent, and likely in next year's World Juniors will be a huge part of that team. Now, going to the fourth player that I think has risen quite a bit for this year's World Juniors, I'm going to go with Canadian defenseman Jamie Drysdale. Now, Drysdale had a very, very interesting tournament. He turns 18 in April and was a pretty solid part of that Canadian defense. Now, Drysdale to start out did not get a great opportunity. When the full team was healthy, he barely got like 6 defenseman minutes. But in those minutes, I thought he was perfectly acceptable, and when he got the more minutes that he deserved, he was actually pretty fantastic. Especially versus Team Germany and especially versus Finland, I thought Drysdale was very, very good. And as a 17-year-old defenseman on a team like Canada is a pretty solid achievement. Now, Drysdale, in the process, in 7 games, was able to collect 1 goal, 2 assists for 3 points. But in this situation, you shouldn't even look at the points, whether he got a ton of points or not. Because the guy has amazing talent. He's shown that in the OHL to be an offensive premier defenseman. And I think he showed a lot of signs with Team Canada, to be honest. If he doesn't end up making the NHL next year, and maybe the team that drafts him has a lot of patience, he will be the man on that defense and will be astounding for Team Canada. It's just gotta take some patience. He obviously needed some patience to get used to the World Juniors, and after he got that, he was great. And the guy in the OHL has been freaking brilliant. I don't think the World Juniors make him a top 5 prospect or anything, but he goes from a guy that is a lock for the top 10 to a guy that could go top 5. And for a team that needs defensemen, Jamie Drysdale is your guy. And now on to the next player who has risen his draft stock for this year's World Juniors. I'm going to go with JJ Peterka, another German prospect. Now, Peterka is a super fascinating one because I personally think he should be in the first round, and there should be no question about it. But he was brilliant for Team Germany alongside Tim Stützle, alongside Maurice Seider, was pretty fantastic offensively, showing his amazing skills. Right now, he should not be considered a first-round prospect. He should be considered a top 20 prospect because right now, that's what he is. Now, in 7 games for Team Germany, he was able to put up 4 goals, 2 assists for 6 points. And as a 17-year-old, those are great stats against some pretty good company, too. In the DEL, he has gotten 9 points in 25 games, but that's mostly to do with his deployment not being as good as it should be. The ice time was definitely not there, but the skill is there. He's a guy that I think skill-wise is one of the better in this draft, and as a German-born prospect brings a lot of excitement. He bring that in the World Juniors and stepped up to an even bigger level the right times when he needed to do so. He has the clutch factor and also the skill factor to go along with it. Now, going on to the third and final player who I think has dropped in stock at this year's World Juniors, I'm going to go with Russian goalie Yaroslav Askarov. Now, I don't usually like using the World Juniors as the be-all end-all sample size, like I said in the earlier part of the video. But especially when it comes to goaltenders, it can be a super short sample size. And I say that Yaroslav Askarov is falling because I think he should and I think he will. But at the same time, I think he played 3 total games, so it's not exactly the biggest sample size whatsoever. Askarov is still the best goalie in the draft, and it still is not even close. But the 17-year-old goaltender did not have the greatest tournament. In 5 games, he had a 2.71 goals against average and a .877 save percentage. Simply not good enough for Team Russia. Obviously, they went for Mikhtanov in that game versus Canada. Didn't end up working the greatest, but I don't exactly blame them either, because Askarov was simply just not there yet. He will be amazing in next year's tournament, but this year, obviously, he was just a step behind, he was just too young, and obviously this was his first World Juniors as well. I think the future is bright still for Askarov, and I still think the potential to go as a top 5 pick is there, but I think some teams will be kind of cautious because of the World Juniors performance. I don't think it's fair, but I also don't disagree with it either. He's a guy that has not stepped up either, has not been the guy yet for Russia, but that time will come for him eventually. I don't think we should judge him on 5 games in the World Juniors rather than his last 2 years of dominant play. He's still a fantastic goalie prospect, and once he's drafted, will be the #1 guy goalie-wise. But going on to my last player who I think has risen up through the 2020 World Juniors with his draft stock, I'm going to go for another German forward, that being Lukas Reichel. Lukas Reichel is a guy that, like JJ Peterka, like honestly Tim Stützle, will go super underrated in this draft. He should be a first-round pick, just like JJ Peterka, and it shouldn't be close either. He has the skill, he has the production, and he had the production once again in this year's World Juniors. Now, the 17-year-old forward in 24 DEL games had 8 goals, 7 assists, and 15 points to start out. Very, very solid numbers, and came into this Germany team looking for some more ice time, looking for some more opportunity, and he definitely got it. In 7 games played, he had 3 goals, 2 assists for 5 points overall. Very, very solid numbers from him. Now, I personally always had Reichel as a first-round pick in this draft because I love the potential that he has, like guys like Stützle and Peterka, but he's been underrated for a while, and I think if you have him outside of your top 31, if he somehow goes outside of the top 31 in this draft, whatever team ends up getting him, I think we'll get a steal. A guy that can have a lot of offensive upside, some great offensive ability, and the talent that'll be showcased every single game. But that is it for my picks here today for the positives, the rising, and the falling. So let me know down in the comments down below your thoughts on my picks, both for the risers and the fallers. Let me know what you agree with, and of course, your thoughts as well. Let me know which players you think fell and rose in this year's World Juniors. But if y'all want some more Grav videos just like this one, I would advise you click on this card right here for all of my World Junior content, all in one playlist. Trust me, it's free, it's a good deal. Grab some popcorn and do what you need to do. But that'll be it for today, guys. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Comment down below your thoughts on my picks, what you agree and disagree with, and who you see rising and falling as well. Share this video with your friends, get the word out there. I think we're just like a few subscribers away from 10K. It's honestly insane. My name is Nathan, though, and I'll see y'all next video or stream. Goodbye.